Oh, hello everybody. This is an emergency broadcast. Let's see. When I'm mad, I gotta do a video. This is live. This is like I'm making it, what is today? I'm making it at 7:30. Today, whatever the date is, it is on my phone. Okay, see this? Okay, I'm gonna talk about DropBox. These are all my catalogs for all my video sites here. And as you know, I post a lot of videos because that's, I'll be in the light in a minute. And what came to my mind was, I'll title this, Beware of DropBox. And then I'll try to talk, something profitable in a minute. There's some important news things that have to do with Venezuela. I'm not going to get into the whole, Trump and everything else. But first with DropBox. The purpose for me having various cloud sites, you see all of those cloud sites, when you click the links on OneDrive, Google Drive, Mega and all that, some of the cloud sites you use for free because they give you, DropBox actually gives you the least amount of free cloud, meaning free space for video, and Mega gives the most free out of my different cloud sites. But I had DropBox as a free account, which was a low amount of videos. I messed with it for a while, and they're the most expensive, but they've been around for a long time, so I don't mind paying. It's quite cheap. I had 1 TB of space, for those who do this, for $10.65 a month, which is actually the most expensive for that amount of video storage. Now, I only had about 200 GB out of the free, or out of the, 1 TB, meaning I had a whole lot of extra video space, for years to come on DropBox. But being they're the most expensive for that amount of space, OneDrive and Google Drive are about half the price for the same amount of video space. But I chose to use them and it took me a whole week to upload 175 GB, meaning about 800 videos, and it's the work. It's not so much. $10.65 a month is nothing. I don't mind that. But what happened tonight was, when I went to share videos from DropBox, though they kept charging me because I reported them for fraud. What DropBox did was they downgraded me to a free plan, though I was on the paid plan. Now, it might have been a glitch, or it might have been a problem they had, but you can't contact them. You got to go to a chat thing, and so what I did is I reported them for fraud to Wells Fargo. Rightfully so, because Wells Fargo still showed my bank account. It's automatic payments to pay these things, and my bank account showed they were still going to charge me. I was on the monthly. I thought maybe there was an error and they stopped automatically deducting my bank account. No, they didn't stop. As a matter of fact, it was supposed to stay active to the next payment, which is the 12th. And it showed that every payment was made. So what they did was, regardless of it was just an error, none of the other cloud sites, meaning Google Drive, OneDrive, and all those, none of them ever did that to me. And being DropBox is the most expensive, but they've been around the longest. So I just wanted to go with people that I felt were reputable, and so I consider that fraud. Now, I mentioned to them online through the chat thing, because you can't call a number. I said, look, I reported you for fraud and cancel my account. But and they said, we dropped you back down to the basic. But they already did that. They dropped me to the free account while still charging me. So you can't trust them. I had the same problem with Vimeo. I was on a paid account with Vimeo. You don't see me post Vimeo videos anymore. I have some free ones on there because, once again, you had a lot of paid videos. You paid to put them on that platform, and one day, lo and behold, they deleted all my videos. So there's a problem we're having, with YouTube is free. They mess with my views. But so I wanted to do this update. Maybe it's helpful for those who try to engage in videos and teaching and so forth, because you want to make sure you go with companies that you can trust. Mega is a free site for for a lot of videos you can upload. But they were, like a year and a half ago, they were giving away like a whole bunch of free video space. But then when you went to the site, it would say, "We are presently under federal investigation." So they had some problems. Okay, being it's on, and I wanted to do this, I'm going to title this "Beware of Dropbox," because I have to leave the free one on. I was just going to delete everything, cancel. I told them on the chat, on the thing talking about it, I said, cancel it. They said, "Oh, we dropped you down." They must have realized that they messed up. And I'll leave it on because I have so many links already. That's the problem with it. It's not the money. Like $10 a month is nothing, okay? It's, you don't want to do all this work for naught. Now, because I'm talking, what would be something that, for this week, that April, what is today? May? Okay, we're in May. For May, I was thinking it was saying the 20-something earlier. So today would be Thursday, May 2nd, okay, 2019. The news that's important, and this does relate to things you've heard me speak about, I felt like the media the last year and a half was kind of very irresponsible in the way they covered a lot of things, particularly about Russia. Now, without getting into the political aspect of it, I felt the danger about, we're talking social media, our news and the Mueller investigation, and many of those things, many in the country, maybe half of the country, 50% of the people in our country believe that Russia, really badly interfered with our elections. And one of the biggest things, the way they did it, was there were these false ads on Facebook that came from certain Russians. The amount of ads was like $70,000 of ads, which means there's nothing, okay? And the many millions and millions and millions and millions. So anyone that would know anything about social media would tell you that's not, if you felt like $70,000 worth of ads on Facebook was interference from another country, but they blew it up to the point where they were not able to really look at maybe some serious issues that indeed have to do with Russia. One of them is Venezuela. Now, Venezuela has been in big trouble for a very long time. The whole economy, people starving, they had a lot of problems. Nicolas Maduro, who was the democratically elected socialist, okay? This could be history a little bit, because what you had in the Latin American, South Central American countries, Bolivia and these places, you had, because of people like the famous Che Guevara. It's a very interesting story. And then his involvement with the Cuban Revolution and Fidel Castro rising to power. Now, at that time, in these South Central American, Latin American countries, a lot of them believed that the Western world, the United States, corporations and capitalism were the big problem. And so many people in many of these Latin American, South American countries, through democracy, voted in socialist-type leaders, okay? And that happened out of sincere beliefs that people had. So Nicolas Maduro happens to be one of those who's the current president on the brink of maybe not, being kicked out. but he was voted in. Now, granted, Nicolas Maduro, like any person that would be voted in our country or any country, you're going to have problems that you could blame on the president. But the problems that Venezuela had was the socialist system simply failed over a period of years. I think he got in 2013, Nicolas Maduro. Now, there's been an uprising, rightfully, because the economy, people are starving in Venezuela, and it is somewhat on the brink of collapse. But here's the problem. The other person that is kind of Guardo, and there's another man like in opposition to Maduro, and the U.S. came out, Mr. Trump and others, the Western world came out and backed this new man, Guardo, like we recognize him as new president for various reasons. But Russia and China, who happen to be supporters of Nicolas Maduro, particularly Russia, they're saying no. We don't think the United States or anybody should overthrow a democratically elected president. And being Nicolas Maduro, the present president of Venezuela, happens to be associated with Russia. Russia's kind of taken their side. What's the problem now? An honest, real thing that the media could report if they weren't so stained and tainted by their very unbalanced coverage of Russia this last 2 years. They're going to have, it's an inability. They've affected world events to the point where whatever decision Mr. Trump would make, some were Mike Pompeo and others in our government, like John Bolton and others, that I don't agree with. Some believe we should even militarily go in and back up the removal of the president. Now, some would say that's a coup. You're unseating a democratically elected president, and let's get the next guy in. But the problem is, the next man, Guaido, he seems to be just like a socialist like Maduro. So would we want to have a war that could be a big one, that would involve Russia-backed, Venezuelan-backed troops, backed by Russia, you see? And our statements to Russia have been the last few days, well, we would consider it a grave threat, and it would be, to have some type of a conflict, the U.S. backing the other guy, Guaido, and troops fighting, and Russia and Maduro. And why did the U.S. make statements that would be a grave threat? Because it would be, if you will, on the continent, South Central Latin America, but America. And rightfully, that would be a big threat. But we don't seem to see how we are right on the borders of Russia in our involvement in Syria and other places. And Russia, rightfully, for a long time, saw our involvement very close to Russia in that part of the world as a threat. And we fluffed that off. But yet we, at the same time, would consider it a threat if there was really action, like I just described, in South America, South Central Latin America. Meaning, at the point that we're at right now, the serious question and news issue should be this, a big one, okay? This is world events that deal with political sides and that also deal with life and death and war, which should always be a last resort. Do any of us in this country want to see a conflict that might lead to us fighting troops once again? And maybe our young men and women dying on a battlefield to install another socialist president because the one that's been in there since 2013 has failed? You see, I don't know if we ever really think any of these things through. And all the news you might have heard the last week, and such a lot of talk about Russia, Russia, Russia. You might have heard some of this, but this is news that is worthy of the attention of the American public. That we should be informed about real issues. I'm not a supporter of Vladimir Putin, but I'm not sure if I would be for the ouster of Maduro in order to install another socialist. It's very easy to blame the problems of a country or an economy on that president, whoever he be. But if the problem really is the system that they tried to install that's been failed, socialism, then should we look at it like, let's just get one socialist out and put another one in? Do you understand? So I figured I'd mention that because I don't know if we're thinking through these things in a right way. But this video, I'm going to put it up now. I normally read at this time a few chapters of the Bible. But it upset me. Now, gratefully, thankfully, I have so many of these sites that you saw. I really didn't skip a beat. My goal is to post 7 to 8 videos every night, which covers years of me teaching. And I try to give a mix and all. But I was upset because that platform, when I choose to do business with one of these, I want to do it with a company that's reputable. That's the only reason DropBox is about twice as expensive for what I explained as the other ones are. And yet they showed themselves, I put them now in the category of Vimeo, meaning maybe other people like those companies, but my experience with them is they're not trustworthy. I'd rather pay a little more, which I did, for something that I feel like has got value to it. Because we live in a world where a lot of our social sites, media sites, people have not trusted them. When you see me put BitTube and DTube and all these, those are video sites that are not as good as YouTube, but they rose solely, really, 90% of the reason these other sites you see me on, because they felt like YouTube was indeed doing sort of like a bias against people that had different points of view. Many felt Google and YouTube and others, parent company of YouTube, that they were like discriminating against voices that had different political agenda or view. So that's why the others came up. But then the other thing I look at is, are you reputable? I was upset when I went to share DropBox videos, which took me a whole week to put those 888 videos on DropBox. Took 1 week of constant upload, non-stop, backup computer. And then I realized, after they still kept charging me, and Wells Fargo said, oh yes, you're on, you've been paying $10.65 a month for the last how many months, and you're going to pay again, on the 12th of each month. And while paying, they dropped me down. Somehow they made a mistake and dropped me to a free plan. Okay, I could try and correct the mistake, but not when you can't contact this representative. I was talking to a bot, like trying to get through. Like if you're calling Wells Fargo and you want to report fraud, you can't get an operator. Okay, so I said, that's it, we'll upload this, hopefully it's live tonight, 10, whatever I gave the date was, all right? God bless everybody, and I should do a Sunday teaching this Sunday. I've skipped the normal routine, but just because I've been, fairly active. So I want to bless you guys tonight. We pray for the best results in all world affairs. And in all world affairs, the last resort should be violence. I don't support Nicolas Maduro, and Venezuela's had these problems for many years now. It's not new. And if there's a popular uprising in Venezuela, it's got to come from them. U.S. involvement has failed. Libya, Iraq, Syria. I mean, the history of the United States involvement in backing up coups or removal of leaders for other leaders, I don't know of one that's been successful, okay? And you've had the blood of Americans and these other people spilled on battlefields. And so we have to really look seriously before we decide that we're going to get some military involvement in the removal of any leader. It's the way we guide our military decisions is if you're a real threat. You know, people use existential. And look, I teach philosophy and existentialism. And when I hear these people use it, I would ask them, because they often say he's an existential threat. You hear media people. Do they know what the word means? Every time you hear somebody use that, understand they're more than likely doing it because they don't really know what that means. If you took that word existential out and just said, Nicolas Maduro, we feel, is a threat. And then you say Nicolas Maduro is an existential threat. I would ask all these talking heads on the media, what's the difference? Well, it's more pressing. No, I'm not going to teach you. Søren Kierkegaard, the father of Christian existentialism in the 1800s. Okay, so this is just a little update. DropBox. I think I'll go with that title, but we'll see. God bless everybody.